Hello, everyone. Good evening. And we are live. We means I'm not alone today. I'm with Tomass Vide, and he is full stack developer at Accenture. This is a very big, large IT company. And today, Tomass will share his knowledge in Git, and not only knowledge, but also skills. Hello. So as you can see, guys, we have here live stream chat channel, and please just, hi, hey there. You can chat here live. All right. You can also chat in YouTube, but this is not necessarily like the YouTube is the place. So you can chat here in live stream chat in our Discord server. If you don't know where is that, it is posted in the YouTube video. So I'll not waste our time, Tomass' time and your time. Let's start. Today we're going to devote the whole stream to Git, and we're going to learn how to install, how to work with Git. Git is very important because almost all developers work with Git version control system. Without that, development is not so easy. Okay, Tomass, I welcome you here in our Datorium live stream. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Super. So let us start. I think you're going to share your screen, and let us start.
You have to stop sharing your screen and then I can do mine.
Sure.
Or this is the wrong screen.
You have how many screens? 6?
I have two screens.
All right, that's enough.
All right, so let's kind of just start with the very most important question. So first we kind of want to find out what is Git and why do we use it? Right, and also we're going to have to clear up a little some of the questions, since most people, when they learn about Git, usually it goes through GitHub. So generally a very popular question tends to be, what is the difference between Git or GitHub? And we're going to have to clear that up, because Git is like the main tool. GitHub is just a remote repository that works with Git. So we're going to talk about, so today, this session, we're going to talk about Git, and then in the second part, we're going to talk more about how we can work remotely with hosting services like GitHub. Also, another thing, I'm going to sometimes say a word called commit. So there's a word like this. When I say commit, you can basically think that as a version. Right, so Git is a version control system which helps us control different versions of our project. Usually it is code. It doesn't necessarily have to be code, but most of the cases it's going to be code. So if I ever say commit, just think of it as a single version of your project. First of all, you have to understand there are kind of no requirements before this. You can be a beginner programmer, you can be more advanced. You can actually have even no coding knowledge, and you still should be able to follow along. And also all installations we're going to go and do in this session. So let me just kind of show you first a problem that might arise when you're going to be working on some projects like coding, and why Git would be very helpful to kind of avoid that problem or help fix it. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up a kind of a very simple web page, which is just a clock. And you can see it's kind of made by me. So it's a very simple clock. It has some background images. Well, let's say you make this, and now you want to change it a little bit. You think, okay, this looks fine, but let's try changing it a little bit. So you'd go ahead and let's say you change the image, maybe you change the color, make the text a little bigger. Let's try changing brightness as well. And you get this after some changes. Yep, you have started recording.
Oh, yeah.
So you arrive at this position and you think to yourself, okay, you know what? I don't like this. I wanted to get it back to my previous version. Now, normally what you would have to do is you would actually have to go to your code and change back every single thing that you changed when you arrived to this version. And that would mean going back a lot of backtracking. You might forget something. When you forget something, you might create new bugs. And basically can become pretty complicated, especially for bigger projects. But if you simply have Git or some kind of version control, you would just go back to the previous version and get back to what you had previously. Right? Or maybe even worse, maybe let's say you do some kind of a change and that change breaks your entire project. And you see it's black, nothing works, have some errors, and you don't know what you did, it's broken. You want to go back. Again, you can just do that simply using Git. Now, this is a very simple website, so you probably would think to yourself, I mean, come on, it's not that much to change. This is, you don't need Git just for this. Well, there are also bigger projects, right? So this is a very simple one. But for example, let's say if you were to take a look at Angular, which is like a framework for, this is framework for developing front-end web apps. And let's say if you go to their GitHub, which is basically their kind of project folder, you can see that there's a lot of files. Right? There's a lot of hundreds of files. If you go to modules, it goes deeper and deeper. And you can imagine that if you did some changes here, it would be a lot more complicated than just a clock. And you would really start thinking about, hey, I need something so I can organize different changes that I do. So that is the main reason why we would use something like Git. Obviously, there's another really popular reason, which is simply it helps developing code for several people at the same time, right? So, for example, at the Angular project, so this one was made by me, right? So this is kind of simple, but for example, Angular project, you can see that there's almost 1,500 contributors, right? And if they all had to somehow work on this project without using Git or some kind of a version control, you can imagine that that would be kind of a hell. So thankfully, we have Git. It helps with collaborating. It helps with controlling different versions. And also, it's commonly a tool that is used for storing your code remotely in some kind of a cloud hosting service. Right. So let's go ahead and let's install Git. So in order to install Git, you can just Google Git, or you can go to this website. So you can go to this website. I'm going to paste it in Discord. So if you go to Discord, you're going to see the link that I pasted, or you can just write this in your own browser and download it for your operating system. So for me, it's Windows, so I would just download for Windows. Okay. So I mean, it's probably going to take a while since it's kind of downloading, but the point being, you just simply have to download it, and then you can use the installer and just go next. You don't really have to worry about settings or anything too much. Just kind of go next and install it. Everyone should just kind of do it right now. So I would invite you to do it. I don't know how long should we wait. What do you think, Elchin? How long should we wait for them to install?
I think it's just really a couple of seconds.
Okay. I mean, for me, it would probably be more than a couple of seconds. It would be like 2 minutes apparently.
Yeah, first, of course, you want to read things there, but for now, just next everything you see there. Okay. Yeah, there are things you can set up there. For example, what is the default editor? For example, you can set to Visual Studio Code or Vim or whatever you wish. Okay. But just next everything for now. If you will be quite professional, you will then set up them, believe me.
If you already have installed Git or you have it ready, then you can maybe just let me know in Discord. So just say ready, I have it installed, etc. Let me check how many viewers we have, and then I'll see if we get most of them.
No, that's fine. I think we can go. I have it ready. I think we can go with that.
Right. So if we can go, then in that case, I'll just go ahead and cancel mine. It's still downloading. So in that case, I'm going to you can just go into your what do you call it, search bar, and you can write something like CMD, or you can open up really any terminal. It doesn't matter, and just try writing Git 2 dashes and version. And what you should get is basically Git and the version of it. So you should get something like this. It's a good way to confirm that, okay, you have Git installed and it's working. So again, you can just open any command terminal. One way is like this, just CMD, open it up and just write Git space double dash and version. And just make sure that you have it installed. So kind of an important note as you'll be following along this session is that this is very sensitive to things like spelling, capital letters, so casing, how many dashes you have, and etc. Right? Sometimes you're going to have 1 dash, sometimes you're going to have 2 dashes. So be very mindful about your spelling, how many dashes, spaces, and capital letters. Right? Sometimes you're going to have capital letters, sometimes you're not going to have it. So if you get some kind of error, something's not working, double check these 4 things and really make sure you have written down what I have. Okay. When you have done that and you see that it's working, we're going to have to do 2 things. We're going to have to configure our name and we're going to have to configure our email. These 2 things are going to be used when we create new versions or commits of our code. And that will basically just kind of say, okay, who is the one that made this new version or this new commit? So to do that, you can just write git config space double dash global. Then we'll do user dot name, and in double quotes you can just write your name. So I'm going to go ahead and write my name, so like this. And this will set your name, and you should also do the same for email. So git config, it's exactly the same, git config double dash global user email. And then you just write your email. So I'm going to go ahead and write mine one. This is not really used to log in anywhere. It's just simply information that will be attached every single time you're going to make a new version or commit of your project or code or whatever else you're working on. So just go ahead and press enter. And you can kind of also check this just by doing something like git config user.name, and this should use your name, or git config user email, and this should have your email. Right, so this is how you can confirm that it's been set. So if you have done that, let's go ahead and try to create our first Git repository. As I said previously, we're going to be doing everything locally today, so we're not going to be really interacting with anything remote. So if you heard or know about things like Git cloning, Git pulling or pushing, that's going to be reserved for the next session. In this session, we're just going to try doing everything local. You can go ahead and I'm going to give you this link where I have some files, which is actually for this clock, right? It's a very small file. I'm going to put it in Discord. Or if it's a recording, then you're probably going to see it in the description. But yeah, go to that file, go to that link, and you can just download it. Download all. It will create a zip file, and it's going to be downloaded, and you should extract it. Yeah, so this happened a lot faster than Git because it's a really small file. So just download it. It should now appear in your downloads. And then you just have to extract it. So an easy way how to extract will be just to open it, and I can just like drag it out. That can be done on Windows 10. If you don't have that, then either there's some zip file software or something else, but just make sure you extract it and you have this folder ready here. Okay, so if that's done, what we need to do is now open the terminal to this folder. Now, I guess there's several ways to do it depending on your system. If you installed it with Git Bash on your context menu, so this is one of the options that you could use, then you can just right-click and click Git Bash here, and you should get something like this. Another option, if you're on Windows 10, you can shift right-click. You can have open PowerShell window here, and you should get this. So this means that you open your folder. If you don't have any of that and you're not sure, again, we can just use the command prompt. And let's try to navigate to this folder using the command prompt. For that, there's a command called cd. So what you want to kind of do now is, if you want to find out where this folder is located, you can kind of go to your folder, right-click it, go to properties. Right, so you select the folder, you right-click, and go to properties. And it should show the location of your folder right here. So that's one way to find out. And then just kind of, you can navigate it from here. So you can see that we are in C users Datorium. This is our current location. So we want to get to desktop. So we will do cd desktop. And now we want to cd into this folder. So we will do cd and the folder name. In our case is custom clock. So there's many ways how to do this. I showed you about 3, either with Git Bash, or you could do it PowerShell, or you can kind of manually go there by using the cd command. So it's basically cd space and the name of the folder where you want to go. Or you could just do it in one try, like just desktop custom clock. You could also just do it like this. But I guess it's much simpler if you do it one by one. And good. If you have this ready, let's initialize or create our very first Git repository. Now you can do that by writing git init, right? Which stands for git initialize. So enter that, And it should say initialized empty Git repository in basically the place where you have your folder. Simple side.
Just a moment. This repository actually is a file which tracks what you're going to do later, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to show now. If you go to your folder, if you open it, normally you're not going to probably see it.
Yes.
But you can go to view, and this is at least on Windows 10. You can go to hidden items, this checkbox. So you have to check it. Because normally this isn't something that you really need to see. You're not really going to interact with this folder almost at all. But you should be aware that if there is a Git repository initialized, you're going to have this folder. Normally it's hidden. If you want to see it, you can go view hidden items. So you have to check this. You can see that if I check it or down, it disappears.
Actually, I think I misexplained this. It's like, yeah, it's itself a project which stores all the information.
Yeah, I mean, this folder basically contains all your information about your different versions, different branches, your remote connections, everything related to Git is stored inside of this folder. So if you're going to delete it, I'm going to do it now because I don't really have anything done. Then what's going to happen is that I basically deleted my Git and it doesn't exist in this folder anymore. So I would have to do it again, git init, which will create it again.
Yeah.
This folder is important, but you shouldn't really interact with it. It's just kind of there and you should be aware of it. You want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell that that's why we use things like cloud web interfaces or some interfaces for Git, like GitHub, GitLab. That's because if something happens with your machine, like you work, let's say 6 months on the project and suddenly your hard disk dies or SSD disk, doesn't matter. That's it. This is the end of the story, actually, if you cannot recover that, or if you haven't sent that to, I don't know, some cloud.
Yeah, so that is in general why you use cloud, as a matter of fact. When you want to store something so that it can, first of all, it can be available from anywhere, but second of all, if something happens with your machine, no worries, you still have all the files saved. And you can just access them from your computer. Okay, so now we have a repository created in this folder. And now what we can do is create our very first version. So let me just quickly try to illustrate how does it kind of work and why we will be doing the things we are doing. So first you have to know is that, let's say you have a folder, and in that folder you have several files. Let's say you have 1 file, 2 files, let's say 3 files. So at first, these files just simply exist in that folder, and Git does not know about them, right? They're not tracked, they're not being saved, Git is not aware of them. So that's kind of what happens in the first step. You have new files or changes in your folder. Now, what you want to do is you want to say to Git, hey, I want to save these files into a new version of my project or code. So you would use something that's called git add. So there's a command called git add, which basically just prepares files for a commit. So this will say specifically, hey, I want these files to be added for commits. They can be all of those files or they can be just few. But that's kind of what happens in the next step. You say git add, and then we prepare some files for saving. And then the next step would be git commit. Git commit is the one that actually saves your changes in a new version. So first, you create new files or new changes, you prepare them for committing, and then you finally commit them. And once you commit them, that's basically a new version of your project. So let's go ahead and do that step by step. I'm going to open up back my command prompt. I'm going to say git add. I'm going to do this -A and capital A, right? Keep in mind it's git add, small letters, and then we have dash and capital A. This will basically add all files in the folder for staging, right? So it will prepare them for a new commit. And then we can do git commit -M. This was the second step. Now we actually want, because we now want to create the new version. And then in double quotes, just write your message, what kind of message for your version. So normally you would say what changes were done, or what did you add new or remove. In my case, I'm just going to write first version and close the double quotes and do a commit. So if you do git log, so try around writing git log as your next command. And you should see your first commit. This is taken from your config. If you remember, this was we did previously. We had the name, and we had email. This was the time when it was created, and this is your message. This is the ID of the commit. We're going to use that later. But basically, this is how you can tell, okay, this was the commits we currently have in this project. So let's now create another version. Let's make some changes. And like I said, you don't really need any coding experience. You can just take this props file and you can open it in literally any editor you have. It can be Visual Studio Code. It can be Sublime Text, anything you have. I'm just going to use Notepad because I know that that's the app everyone has. Or if you're a Mac user or Linux, then you maybe have something else. And you kind of should see these kind of props where you can make some changes, right? So we can change the image. If you go in images folder, you can see I have different images here. I have jungle, mountain, savanna. I'm going to go ahead and pick savanna. You can change your brightness. So the higher, so it goes from 0 to 1. The higher it is, the brighter the image. I'm going to go ahead and do 0.5. Color is just going to be color of text. I'm just going to go red, yellow. I think this should be fine. Let's save it. Now open up your index file. So you should have an index file. You can open it in any web browser. Usually you should just be able to do it by double clicking it. And you should see right here that we have clock with these new changes, right? We have elephants now in the background. We have yellow text. And the image is slightly more brighter than we had previously. It's okay. Yep, that's it. And now we want to save these into new changes. So let's do it again. Let's create another version for these changes. Again, the first step. And by the way, we can do git status, which is another command, which tells us some information about the current status of our Git repository. So this says on Git on branch master. We're going to talk about branches later, but for now, I guess that's not important. What is important is this information. it tells you Git. Now this says it changes, not staged for commits. And it tells you that we have a file props.js that was modified. So it means we made some changes to it. You might have other things, for example, deleted or added new. Then you'd have written, either new file or you have removed. And here's the file. So if you want to add it, again, we can do git add -a. It will just add all changes we did. In the git commit, let's do message second version, or maybe I can do elephant in Solana, something like that. And now we have created a new version. Now we have two versions of our code in our kind of history. This is the latest one. But if now we want to go back, because remember I previously kind of showed you the example of where I had my initial clock and then I changed it to having like a jungle background and I had red text. Now let's say I want to go back. You can do that by first going to git log. Git log now shows you that you have two commits. So you have this elephants in Solana, which is the current one, and then we have the previous one. So now you can use this commit. So you have to copy it. And you can do git checkout. And you can paste it. So basically, we're taking this code and we're putting it here. And go ahead and press enter. And now it should kind of tell you that you're now in the detached head state, which basically means that you're not at the latest version. The head is basically the latest version of your code. And it now tells you where you're at. What is your current position in this version history. So if you do refresh, we're back to our original version. So if you didn't like the elephant, then you can just go back to the mountains. And it was pretty simply done, especially if you were to have very advanced code and you made a lot of changes, you'd see more and more the value of being able to just go back by going between versions. Now, let's say you want to say, okay, this is fine. I want to go back to my original version. Then you would just do git checkout. And you would write the name of the branch. So if you previously remember, it's told us that we are on branch master. So you would just write the branch name, git checkout, and the name of the branch, enter. And we just go back to the very latest version. Okay, so now we're saying, okay, I don't like these elephants. I just want to delete it from my history. I don't need it. I don't like it. Let's just go back to the original mountains. Then we would do git reset -- hard. And then we give the version where we want to go to back, right? So again, we need the version of our first commit. We put it here. So again, we want to go back to this version. We just want to reset it. So we would just place it here. Then we'll go ahead, press enter. And we are now back at our first version, and our history doesn't contain the changes anymore. This is something you're going to be doing really rarely, but you know that it's the possibility is there that if you ever make changes and you kind of have messed up or something's broken anymore, you can just go back to the version that was previously working. So that is basically about how we go back and forth between different versions. So you can, in a way, you can imagine it as one line where you have different versions. So we have the first version, then we would have a second one. And if you wanted, you could keep making more and more and more. And at any time, you can just go back and forth between different versions.
This is like a time machine in action.
In a way, this is a time machine for your changes. Now let's talk about another feature that we have that's very important and actually used quite a lot, and that is branches. So we have branches. This is very important in Git because this is actually something you're going to be using quite a lot when you're going to begin working in teams and with different people, which lets you parallelly, like in parallel, work with different versions of your code. So for example, let's imagine that you have created, so this is your master branch, right? So typically the master branch is the like common branch that everyone uses, and it has all the latest changes that have been tested and are working and confirmed. And let's say you have some commits, right? So I'm gonna draw some commits there. You have the first commit, and then you make some different ones as well. But now somebody from the team comes along and says, hey, we want to create some new feature. Let's say, let's make this clock, like, let's change the appearance of this clock. Then what you would do is you would, from the latest change, you would now create kind of a new branch. So like if Elchin used the analog time machine, then we would just kind of create in an alternate universe, an alternate timeline, where we would have now these separate changes.
Yeah,
So,
and by the way, Thomas, sorry for interrupting you. So by the way, this development and commits in master branch will happen at the same time as this green branch, right?
can you repeat that?
No, I mean the development and commits to master branch. Let's say if we, let's say now we have two teams. One is the main team, which works on the main master branch, right? And then we have a team which will create a new feature. They can work parallelly, actually.
Yes, that is,
yeah.
That's what I mentioned previously, that you can now use, you can work in parallel on these two versions.
Yeah, okay.
Now, typically, usually you would only ever do changes on branches. So you would have the master branch, which contains fully tested and working changes. And then whenever you want to do something new, you would create this new branch and do changes there. And once it's been tested, everything's working fine. People in your team agree, okay, these changes are good. We want everyone to have them. Then you would end up merging them into the master. But we're going to get to that. Let's go ahead and get to this step first. Let's create our first branch for this clock. So if you go and git status, you can see we're currently on branch master. Let's go ahead and create a new branch. You need to go git checkout -b. So git checkout -b means we're creating a new branch. And then we do space, and now we need to write the name of the branch we want to create. So let's say I want to create a clock that's gonna have a cat in the background instead of mountains. So I would just create a new branch. Let's name it cat. It says switch to a new branch cat. Git status. Again, you can just check and make sure, yep, we're on branch cat right now. So good. We have created a new branch. Let's do some changes on that branch. So I guess I closed Notepad, so let me open it again. So first of all, let's download a new file, right? So you can go, you can grab a file. If you have your own pictures, you can grab your own pictures. You can go in Google Images. So for example, just like search cats. I'm going to go to a website called unsplash.com, and I'm going to search for a cat image here. Right, so there's different images. I had a particular one in mind, this one. So I'm going to go ahead and download it, medium size. I have it in my downloads. So let's go back, grab it, put it in my images, and let's name it cat. So now I have a new file. And just to kind of understand, let's grab some more images as well. Let's say if you want to have different versions, so you just want to check which image might look the best. So I don't know, let's grab some other images as well. Two more, just to check out and compare. Set this one. Put them inside here. It's going to be cat 2, and it's going to be cat 3. Right, so just go ahead, get some images. It doesn't really matter, like 2 or 3 images, and put them inside your custom clock and images folder. So when you have that ready, if you go and write git status now, you should see that you have basically untracked files, which means these are files that are new and Git doesn't know about them at all. Right, so we have these 3 new images. So let's go to props. So open it here, and let's do some changes. So first, let's try cat.jpg. Let's do brightness 0.5. I'm going to do a color pink. I'm going to make it smaller, like hundreds. And just change the author too as well. Joe. And refresh. So now we have made these changes. Let's try other images as well. Maybe cat 1. We had cat 2. This is another one. And we had the third one. And I guess the first one, I think I like the best. So I'm just going to go with the first one. And now if we write git status again, it's going to see, okay, so we have modified the props.js file, and we have 3 new files. So we don't really want to publish these 2 files. They're just kind of for us. We just want to track the image that we will use and the modified props file. So normally, if you remember, we would do something like git add -A, which would just add all files. But in our case, we just want to add specific files. So we would write the name of that file. So we want to add props, right? So we want to add these changes. So we will add props.js. And then we want to add in that cat image, right? So we would have to write git add images /cat.jpg. If you write git status again, it says now, okay, changes to be committed. We have these 2 files, and these are untracked files, so Git doesn't really know about them. It just says, hey, there are these 2 files that are completely new and nothing's been told us about them. But that's okay, we don't need them. We can just go ahead and do git commit -m, and you can write the message. So for example, in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and do new cat design. Enter. That's okay. So we have 2 files changed. 5 insertions. I guess that's not important, but basically, yeah, we have created a new version. Refresh, everything's working. And now we can go back to the previous branch. So we can go get checkout master. If you remember, this was our original branch. Press enter. Switch to branch master. Refresh, and we are back to kind of the original version that we had. Now we can also go get checkout, back to cat. So now you can see we can kind of keep switching back and forth between these two branches. And someone can keep making changes to the mountain. I can keep making changes to the cat. We can work parallelly, and we're not going to disrupt each other for now. So that's how you work with branches. So now let's say that you create this new design and your entire team says, okay, we like this new design. We want this to be kind of on the master branch, right? So this is, if you remember what I drew, kind of the branch timeline. And then we have this is the cat branch. Right, so we have master here. Here we have the cat branch. So we had the version here. The cat created a new version, and now we want to take that version and we want to merge it together to master, so that now everyone can have that change and everyone can kind of build upon it or keep working on it. For that, we have to go to the main branch. So make sure you are on your master branch. Again, if you want to check it, git status. It says on branch cat. Let's go git checkout master. So we have switched back to master. And now let's merge the cat changes into the master branch. So we do git pull, and now the name of the branch. So we would do cat. No, wait. Yep, wrong one. Git merge. So now what happens is that if we check our branch git status on branch master, you can see that since we're on the branch master, we still have the cat changes, because now all the changes that were on the cat were merged into the master branch. So now everyone has this, everyone can keep building upon it. Maybe someone goes along and says, I think this text is too small, let's make it bigger, like 160. I don't know, they can keep building upon these changes. And I guess that's the basics or essence of how you can work with Git locally. You can create now your own Git repository. You can create different commits, which is basically different versions of your code. You can work on different branches and finally merge them together. Now, the next step, and this is something we're going to do in the next session, is we're going to learn how can we work with remote repositories. So this is previously when I mentioned GitHub. And so this is commonly where people tend to learn about Git. They usually first learn about GitHub, and then they learn from GitHub about Git. Although it should be the other way around, because Git is the main thing, and GitHub is just a remote cloud hosting service. There's many other ones like GitLabs, or I don't know what's going on, but basically there's different ones like GitLabs, Bitbucket. GitHub is just one of them. But yeah, we're going to use this one because this is the most popular one, and we're going to learn how we can create a new repository on GitHub so we can save it on the cloud, how we can do pull requests,
I think we had some technical interruption, but that's fine. Everything works fine.
But yeah, this is what we're going to do next time. We're going to learn
Cool.
how we can create a remote repository, how we can push changes to the remote repository, and how we can clone from them, pull from them, and etc. But yeah, I think that is it, what I have planned for this session. Does Elchin have any other notes or closing thoughts he wants to say?
I think that is great session, great start for those who are just starting, or as Thomas mentioned, always use GitHub or GitLabs, whatever web interface for Git, and you want to know the fundamentals, like back to basics. If you guys have any questions, please drop into the live stream chat or into the YouTube. But what I want to say you that this is really important, and I want to give you some. Okay, we have a question. Are there any significant differences between remote Git websites, GitLab, etc.? Okay, they are, but let Thomas answer.
So there are differences. They're not significant in the sense that every, like 99% of everything, and obviously I'm making this number up, but vast majority of the things you're gonna want to do, you can do on all of them. Usually the main common differences is just gonna be finding out how is issue handling. If you know something about pipelines and DevOps, that might also be different. Reviews. So there are some differences, or like pricing, but vast majority of things you want to do, you can do on all of these websites. If you actually have to choose, then you would usually just go in GitLabs versus some other options, GitHub, and then they will list you like small technical differences. But for most things you want to do, they're all fine. I suggest GitHub just because it's the most popular one. If you're serious about coding and you're going to be doing a lot of stuff, you're going to encounter GitHub. So it's best if you kind of get familiar with the most popular option out there.
Yeah, and mostly from what I know, mostly when you are hobbyist like, or you're developing student, yes, mostly people use GitHub because it is most popular. Historically, it was, I think, the first or maybe one of the first ones. Now, by the way, it's owned by Microsoft, the GitHub. They have bought it. Well, it's fine. It's good. We also store our repositories in GitHub. But also when you go like professional, like start working somewhere, you usually use what team already uses. It's like if team already uses like GitLabs or other ones, you just use that one. Right, Thomas? This is also.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, in every project I've worked on, everyone's actually used different remote repository. So I've used quite a few of them. But when it comes to like public things, then it's GitHub usually.
Yeah. But I mean, anyway, one team usually, always works in one of them. Right? Yeah. Thank you for the answer. There's one question. So if there are changes to the parallel branch or any non-master branch, right? Then if merged, let's say then cat changes will be added to the master branch with already earlier made changes. Yeah, so I want to interpret this maybe question if I'm right. So what will happen to the changes to the master branch? Because this is a merge with the cat.
Let me just see if I can illustrate it and tell me if it's correct. So the way I understand it, am I sharing my Discord screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, I should have been sharing the screen. If I interpret it correctly, you mean it kind of like this. Let's say I have my master branch, just do M, and I'm now going to create new changes, cat. So I'm going to go for C. And let's say we do some changes. We have the common changes here. Then I do some changes here. And then someone else at the same time does the changes here. And then finally we merge them. So what happens, basically what happens here? Like how are these two changes combined? Is that Did I understand it correctly?
Yeah, I'm parallel writing to in the channel.
Yeah.
Yes. So simply speaking, let's say one team works on the master branch, or the whole team works on the master branch, and somebody's experimenting, testing some features, right? And if those features are fine, then you merge them, right? But when you merge, until the point of bifurcation, that is when we created the new branch, the master branch is also changed, right?
Yeah.
So when merge happens, actually Git should synchronize those changes, right?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that makes Git really good, is that it usually automatically kind of detects the different changes and can usually merge them very smoothly. There are cases when that doesn't happen. Usually that doesn't happen is when both branches changed the same space, the same parts in your code. So for example, let's say I would do a change on color. Let's say I would change it to yellow here, and then someone on the master branch changes it to blue. And if we try to merge them now, then Git will throw something that's known as a merge conflict, which is usually what developers tend to complain about the most. In that case, but it's simply what it means is that Git's going to tell you, hey, there's a conflict here because both of you made changes. Which one should we keep? And then you just kind of do it manually. You're going to be, he's going to show you where the change, where the conflict is. You're going to have to go into that file, make the changes manually, setting to what you want, then do git merge again, and it should merge the conflict. But if, like, let's say I change the color and then someone else changes this one on the master branch, Git should be able to merge these two without any issues. It usually just happens only if you have made changes to the same file, to the same, not file, but the same place in your code.
Yeah, it just doesn't know which one to.
Yeah.
And by the way, the conflict management is a whole topic in version control things, because sometimes when you merge, even Git can refuse you to automatically merge and advise you to manually solve the conflicts before you're doing that, right? And you get also this when you use like terminal, also when you do, for example, in GitHub, when you want to merge or even you commit, then some potential conflicts are checked. Yeah, right, Thomas? Confirm or not? Yep. Thank you. Okay, that looks very cool. Just bonus for you guys, just a bonus for you. Those who are watching the stream, just I want to show you, like we have one officially more minute. Thomas, I'll steal your screen, please. And I want to show you one thing. Let's say when people start using GitHub, they say, hey, what is this? I don't need it. Like, what is interesting there? Just check GitHub Bitcoin. Okay, GitHub Bitcoin. As you know, Bitcoin is an actually, it's an open source project, right? So you can see the Bitcoin here as it is. This is the Bitcoin, right? This is the Bitcoin. Yeah, I know that you see maybe some of you sometimes invest or whatever do with Bitcoins, see them in their wallets, but actually this what makes Bitcoin actually work. This is the code of the Bitcoin. And you can see it, it's in GitHub right now. Maybe it's also in other repositories, but GitHub, I think, is main. And this is where you can see, and it is very useful to go into places like GitHub and see branches in action. You see there are some branches, probably they're, I don't know, versions. Usually there are versions of software development here. And you can check them. What is here? Like branches. What is this? There are issues, pull requests, projects. But this is, of course, the next topic. Thomas will talk how to use the GitHub as it is. But what I want to tell you that this is really interesting. And this is where you can also learn a lot of things. It's not just pure coding in the terminal and that's it. No, you can learn a lot of things. And more, you can not only code with Git, or you can not only use Git for coding or developing software, you can use that for actually anything where you have versions, right? For example, you can, I don't know, you can write new law, or you can write a thesis for your studies, okay? You can use Git to track the versions. Right, Thomas? Thomas, just a question to you. Have you ever used Git for something else than coding?
No, I have not, but I think I mentioned it at the start that yes, you can really use it for any file that you want to manage. It can be, you know, a painting, some kind of a video editing, also like some school project. Really any files where you do changes with files, you can go ahead and track it with Git.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, it's really interesting. And I really want to tell you that you can try it and you will be positively surprised how not hard is that and how it will help you. So Rainy Boy writes in the chat, huh, never thought of that way. Yes. So that was a very bonus information for you all guys. Thomas, I want to thank you. Thank you very much for this very valuable session. And we will inform about upcoming sessions. So stay tuned, be in our Discord server, because we always share all the fresh and new information there. And I wish you all to manage your versions successfully. Thank you, Thomas. See you in our later streams.
All right, see you guys.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye.